5.1 is understanding large numbers and how to work with large numbers. Often in life and applications and things you read, right? There's actually been a few of examples in Twitter where people have messed up understanding large numbers, actually some fairly famous people. And so it's important to be able to understand that makes it understand when somebody has done something wrong, right? Understand when they quote something and they haven't really done or thought out the math. It sounds right, but mathematically speaking, it's wrong. And we'll get to some examples of that. So again, making sense and understanding large numbers is what 1.5 is about, which is, again, important life skill. A lot of statistical information and a lot of quotes, like I said, can be incorrectly interpreted because people don't understand large numbers or how to work with large numbers. And by large numbers, I'm talking about when we're saying millions, billions, and trillions, right? I mean, they throw around those numbers a lot anymore, especially billions and trillions. Those numbers are really, really large. And so we're going to be working with those. All right, so 1 million. All right, 1 million, all right, is, if you write it out, 1 million is 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. It's 1 with 6 zeros after it, which that's a really big number. And how we sort of shorthand that is 10 raised to the 6. And what that 10 raised to the 6 means, that is 10 with 6 zeros after it. If you take it out on your calculator and you take 10 raised to the 6th, it will give you out 1 million. And so when we say something like 8 million, right? You'll read that, 8 million. Well, that's 8 times 10 to the 6, right? That's really 8 with 6 zeros after. And so when we deal with these numbers mathematically, we're going to multiply. And so you can think of this as the 1 million multiplier. You can sort of think about it that way. All right. 1 billion, in case you don't know, is 1,000 million. That's what 1 billion is. 1,000 million. It's 1 with 9 zeros after it. It's 1,000 of these. You take 1 million, multiply it by 1,000, you get a billion. All right, so again, it's a ridiculously big number. All right, the shorthand for it is 10 to the 9. 10 to the 9 because it's 1 with 9 zeros after it. If you took your calculator out and you get 10 to the 9, or whatever tool you're using, sometimes the calculator will give you what's called scientific notation. It'll give you something like that. Well, that means the same thing. That's 10 to the 9, right? If you take out your calculator, again, depending on your scientific calculator, how many zeros it goes out to. Some calculators will give you the 9 zeros after it. Some, like I said, will use the scientific notation. It means the same thing. The 1e to the 9 is 10 to the 9. That's what it means. It means it's the base 10 raised to the 9th power. That's sort of the shorthand calculator notation. So if I wanted 8 billion, I would take 8 times 10 raised to the 9, and then I'd get 8 with 9 zeros after it. All right, and that's what 8 billion is. Again, it's 1,000 times 8 million. All right, next big number would be a trillion. Again, a lot of times people talk about trillion because, again, the national debt is a common thing that comes up in conversation, right? We're in trillions of dollars of debt. Well, a trillion is 1,000 billion. It's 100,000 million. It's a really, really big number. It's 1 with 12 zeros after it. All right, so again, it's a really, really big number, so we shorthand that 10 raised to the 12. That's what that means. Again, if your calculator gives you scientific notation, it'll give you 1e to the 12, which again means 10 to the 12th power. So if I wanted 8 trillion, I would take 8 times 10 to the 12, and that equals 8 with 12 zeros after it. Which again is a really, really, really big number. All right, $1 trillion is 1,000 billion, and it's 100. So you have to take $1 million times 100,000, and that gives you a trillion. All right, it's just a really, really large number. All right, so those are sort of what we'll use when we're working with large numbers. I'm going to do an example of working with large numbers. All right, so we're going to basically just go through a bunch of different types of examples of working with large numbers and how you process them and use them. Again, every calculator is different, so it depends on what calculator you're using. Some scientific calculators will give you out to 12 places. Some won't. They'll give you the scientific notation. And again, if you want to figure out how to type in the big numbers with scientific notation and that, there's lots of... You take your calculator, Google it, and it'll help you out, all right, since everybody can be using different calculators. Or, again, I know most calculators. I don't know all right, so, again, you need to figure out your calculator. Most calculators do have some type of information that you can find either on Google or YouTube. There are lots of videos. There are videos basically for whenever I have to figure something out on the calculator, I will, all right, I'm using a TI-30. All right, how do I do this? I don't remember, right? So I'll go to YouTube and type in whatever I want to do on my TI-30, my TI-84, all of them. I go and do that. So again, you use your calculator to figure out how to type in large numbers. All right, so applications. So the first outcap, like I said, trillions of dollars are what the debt is. So suppose that the outstanding debt in the United States, and it's somewhere around, there's actually more than this now. This is an older question. $22 trillion, again, is a ridiculously large number. It's 22 with 12 zeros after it. All right, the current population of the United States is 327.16 million people. All right, so I've got trillions of dollars and million people. So again, those are sort of different units because they have different numbers of zeros after them. All right, we want to find the debt per person. So if we were to take the $1 trillion and break it down to every single individual in the United States, all right, how much debt do we owe by individual person? So suppose we're going to split the debt by the people and we want everybody to pay it off. Well, how much debt does every single person in the United States owe if it was to do that way? All right, so first of all, you need to figure out what we're doing. We want to find the debt per person, which means I need to take the debt, which would be the trillions of dollars, and divide it by each person. What's tricky about this is the numbers are really, really big. You can't just take 22 and divide it by 327.16 because in essence, the units don't match. One is in trillions and one is in millions. All right, I've got 22 trillion, which is 22 times 10 to the 12. It's 22 with 12 zeros after it. Now, you don't want to write on your calculator 22 with 12 zeros at it. So what we'll do is we'll use this. This is the conversion we'll use. I know 22 trillion is 22 times 10 to the 12th. That'll give me 22 with 12 zeros after it. And we'll do the same thing with the million. 327.16 million is that 327.16 times, the million conversion is 6 zeros after it, 10 to the 6, right? That's why we talked about these conversions up here, millions, 10 to the 6th. And so we're taking that number, and so the 6 moves the decimal place over and adds, actually, and there's not going to be 6 zeros after it. In this case, because of the 1 6, it moves the decimal place over twice, and then there'll be 4 zeros. So if you typed it out on your calculator, this would come out to 32716 and then 4 zeros because of how the decimal place. So basically, it moves the decimal place over 6 spots. All right, again, we're not going to use the big numbers. We're going to use these sort of scientific numbers. All right, and so those are the numbers we're going to do when we do our division. So when I want to divide the debt, which is our 22 trillion, so 22 times 10 to the 12th, and that's what you're going to type into the calculator, 22 times 10 to the 12th, divide by 327.16 times 10 to the 6th. That will be trillions, and that will be millions, right? The 12 gives me 10 to the 12th gives me trillions. 10 to the 6th gives me millions. All right, and be careful when you type this out. I have parentheses around it because that's what you have to do. You have to do the multiplication first. So you have to do the 22 times. So if you type it out on your calculator, it's 22 times 10 to the 12th. You need to put that in parentheses. Divide by 327.16 times 10 to the 6th, that's the little asterisk time symbol that your calculator pops up. You do need to have this set of parentheses because you have to have the units with each other. Otherwise, it won't follow the right order of operations. Make sure you practice this on your calculator. Figure out how your calculator works to do this. All right, so when we take the 22 times 10 to the 12th, the 22 trillion, divided by the 327.16 million, we get 6, 7, 2, 4, 5, and I'm going to round to the penny, $38 per person. So if we split the debt up, the $22 trillion of debt up, amongst the millions of people in the U.S. population, each person would owe over $67,000 in debt. All right, that's what each person would owe. All right, so I'm going to stop there. I'm going to do the next examples in the next video lesson. So just kind of break it down. And basically, that's all we're going to be doing is a bunch of examples.